Basically, I just want to have a show that the conversations are about sports, faith, and life. And so I want to hear from coaches and players and broadcasters, what has Jesus done in their life, and what does it look like to follow Jesus in their careers. And I've before the Super Bowl talked to Chris Maragos from the Philadelphia Eagles. Well, here his team
that was awesome.
Yeah, well, his team was getting ready for the Super Bowl, and I talked to him the week before, I guess. He was on injured reserve. He wasn't playing. And so what does that look like for your faith when you're experiencing this excitement, or your teammates are, and you're on the sideline? And his perspective, because it's grounded in his faith in Christ, was just inspiring to hear, and just he put the Super Bowl in perspective, that there were more important things to him, and he was still going through the whole journey and ride of his team winning the Super Bowl with his family, but that was what was more important to him, and just the building of his own faith, and then also we've kind of come to find out that team was driven by faith in a lot of ways from the head coach down. So anyway, I love talking to these guys about that, and so I don't necessarily label it as, it's a Christian sports show, but it's a sports show where we talk about Jesus and
there you go,
and the stories and all that sort of thing.
Well, of course, the Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowl victory, not only probably the top story, the top sports story thus far. I know we're early in 2018, but it's likely going to be one of the top sports stories of the year. But it's also one of the top faith stories of the year. And of course, as you talk about having talked with Chris and knowing the faith component, that element of that team, how significant is that?
Yeah, what was so cool was, Carson Wentz really put himself out there from college at North Dakota State and being drafted, and this is who I am. I'm a Christian, and everybody can know it. And so he set that tone as the franchise quarterback. Well, then they bring in a backup quarterback, Nick Foles. He's the same way. So Carson Wentz goes down, Nick Foles steps in, and the same mentality when you're a leader, your quarterback is setting the tone and is one of the key guys who is leading those Bible studies, or in those Bible studies that the team has. It goes a long way, because the quarterback is the natural leader. Not that every quarterback is the leader of the locker room, but that's kind of how it's set up in theory. But for Philadelphia, that was the case. And so all these guys followed suit. And so all of a sudden, all year long, you hear these stories of guys getting baptized the week before the game. And actually, I think in the hotel down in Charlotte where I live. And so you saw it throughout the year. And so the Super Bowl was just a culmination of the journey. But again, Chris Maragos was dealing with an injury. Carson Wentz was dealing with an injury. So it wasn't just, everything's perfect and it's we win the Super Bowl. No, these guys are dealing with real stuff, real pain. You can imagine the personal stories that they deal with as well. And so it's just cool. It was cool to see it all. Doug Peterson, the head coach, was very vocal right after the game. Frank Reich, the story for him to be the offensive coordinator. Now he's the head coach at Indianapolis, and how that whole story came about. You could see God working in his life, and he was a former, he led the seminary actually down in North Carolina, and now he's the head coach of Indianapolis.
Largest comeback in history.
That's right. Absolutely.
NFL history.
Absolutely.
An amazing story.
And a backup quarterback who could relate to Nick Foles in that situation.
Yep, absolutely. Because,
Jim
Kelly had gone down, and he took Kelly's place and led the Bills back. Amazing story.
Absolutely.
Faith story.